maybe a few minutes if someone will join us. If not, we'll just start talking about post-purchase surveys. 101, 201 for those who have not. I mean, I feel like post-purchase surveys are so new. Every time I talk to someone, they have never heard about it, but it gets a lot of attention. I feel that it's something. Actually, fun story is that I was playing with ChatGPT yesterday for like an hour or two, talking about e-commerce brands at different stages, from 0 to 6 figure, from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8, from 8 to 9. And the more advanced the store was, the more important, or the higher in the hierarchy of importance, was understanding your audience and who you're talking to, what are their problems, how can you communicate with your audience at scale. Because if you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers, you will definitely need to start smart segmentation, which everyone is aware of, but no one really is doing anything there. So let's talk about post-purchase surveys. If you want to introduce KnoCommerce first, and we'll take it from there. And if people will join us, then amazing. If not, everyone will be sure the link after.
Yeah. We'll make sure to share this out regardless. And worst case scenario, it's more content for your channel. So I think we all win here in having this conversation. And I think the nice thing about YouTube is it's evergreen, right? So, I mean, hopefully whether somebody wants to get introduced to the value of post-purchase surveys today or in 3 months that this recording hopefully will be helpful for them. So I'm a part of KnoCommerce. We are a post-purchase survey platform used by over 2,500 merchants, mainly Shopify, but we are getting increasingly popular with non-Shopify brands. And as Matt kind of alluded to, we help not only help brands understand who their online customer is through how'd you hear about us data, but I think one of the focus points of today's call will be more advanced strategies such as smart segmentation of email and SMS and retention. And so while we are known for our bread and butter on post-purchase surveys, we also have the ability to email out survey links. So there's a lot of things that we'll be able to dive into today.
That's interesting. So tell me about KnoCommerce in terms of your origin. Like, how did you come up with that particular solution for Shopify stores? Like, where did the idea come from, and how long ago was it?
Yeah, so I have only been lucky enough to be a part of the team since December, but our origin story doesn't date too far back. Long story short, our CEO and a gentleman named Pearson Krause, who owns Lunar Solar Group, worked together to spin up the idea. Just only, I believe, in 2020 or 2021. So yeah, really not that far long ago. And so we started out, I guess a little fun fact about KnoCommerce is we actually started out as a tool called No Attribution. And it wasn't only until the last few months in which we actually sunsetted that platform and fully became KnoCommerce. So No Attribution, it was basically a one-question survey, very similar to most post-purchase survey platforms on the market today. You could ask, in essence, how'd you hear about us, to help brands understand if the customer heard about them from TikTok, Google, Facebook, so on and so forth. But now where we're at is a full-fledged platform with robust reporting. So yeah, that's kind of a brief origin story as to like where we started and now kind of where we're at today.
Love it. So I hear a lot the term zero-party data, and I feel like it requires some sort of quick explanation. Is post-purchase survey, or the surveys that you can do through KnoCommerce, the same as zero-party data? And what's your definition of zero-party data?
Yeah. We've actually joked about this a lot internally, just because I think at the end of the day, it's like we kind of call it 0.5 party data just because it's not true zero party data and it's not like first party data. So it's definitely kind of blended in that. But to kind of go with the theme of zero party data, so let's break it down this way, right? So there's first party data, which is in platform measurement, like Facebook Ad Manager or like Klaviyo or like Google Ad Manager, so on and so forth. Then there's third-party analytics like Triple Whale, Northbeam, Hyros, and then what zero-party data is straight from your customer's mouth. So you're getting customers to answer, to give you insights, to give you feedback straight from their mouths, so that way they can influence your marketing strategy. So if you hear us use zero-party data throughout our call today, it's just referring to your customers telling you how they heard about you, what they want to see in your brand next, what products do they like most, stuff of that nature, versus having a platform try to tell you that.
I like that. So, fun thing that comes to my mind immediately when I hear brand owners or people in marketing complain about surveys. Oh, everyone wants surveys. Everyone wants to run some surveys, questionnaire, quizzes. But if you think about like local businesses, a store that you love shopping at, when you enter the store, it's not like you just buy your product, go to the checkout, no one talks to you, you leave the store and done, right? Like you always try to have a conversation, find out more about the buyer, what are they doing, why they came here, are they coming frequently, you maybe seen them before, and you try to have a conversation with them to basically build a relationship there. So I feel the same thing's happening now online, and if you have tools such as KnoCommerce that make it seamless, why not benefit from it? Which leads me to the next question, like who is the solution for, who should be using it? Maybe a certain like startup brand that just launched their store on Shopify, or is it only for brands that have already like hundreds of thousands of customers and they're already doing decent revenue and they just can find a gap between the next stage for their business? Who's that solution for?
Yeah, so I think the solution is for any brand that wants to automate their consumer behavior. So typically, surveys have been either smiley faces or frown faces or 1 through 5, or basically data points that aren't really actionable, whether it's because there's 10 surveys sparsed across a platform or there is just not enough robust reporting, that it's really hard to make a survey actionable. With KnoCommerce, we tried to make any insight actually actionable. And so the strategy for depending on the business just changes. So it's not if you should have one or you shouldn't have one because I'm not at X revenue target. It's, hey, how can my strategy change and how can KnoCommerce or a post-purchase survey plan like cater to where you're at? And so I think this is like where we really shine through is the education piece. Because if you are just starting out, you don't need a a paid plan of KnoCommerce. Like you just don't. And like a lot of those initial questions, like how'd you hear about us data, they're helpful, but the odds are if you're just starting out, if you're just doing 5K, 10K, even up to maybe 30K a month, depending on your go-to-market strategy, understanding if a customer came from TikTok versus Google versus Facebook isn't going to make or break your business, but it will help you understand what product you want to launch next, what benefits are customers like resonating with the most, like what qualities do they look for when shopping this general product category. And then as you're getting up and up in the market, that is where, hey, okay, now let's understand where attribution's really coming from. Let's understand who they're purchasing it for. Let's ask a new customer a set of questions versus a returning customer versus a customer that shopped with the brand now at 4 or 5 times, because those are all different states of the customer mindset. So ultimately, I think it comes down to the strategy versus the qualification of if you should have one. And I think that's where like our team can really help out.
Makes sense. So you've already mentioned a few examples, but how difficult is it to create an effective post-purchase surveys, and how should a brand approach it? Or is that like more hands-on with you? Like, do you offer that support? How does the process behind creating post-purchase surveys work?
Yeah. So the nice thing about KnoCommerce is if you're Shopify, it sincerely takes 10 minutes to get set up and live on your website. So it is super easy. If you are non-Shopify, it still only takes 30 to 60 minutes. We have all the documentation. It's just injecting a small script to your checkout page. And so super easy to get up and going. Um, And ultimately, like, where you should start depends on my link is frozen. I can't.
You cannot hear anything. We'll be sending a recording out. Yes, we'll be sending a recording out for sure. Yes.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Maybe click refresh and see if that will help. But yeah, either way, we'll send out a recording. But got sidetracked there. What was your? Can you
The question
raise the
is,
second part of that
how
question?
long is the process? You've mentioned 10 minutes to set up an effective or set up a post-purchase survey. So it's quite simple to integrate it with Shopify store. What about like design and coming up with like questions, like technical part of it? Let's start with technical part of it. How difficult it is to implement, and do you have to like? Do you think it will? Do you have to play with like the code, like the Shopify theme? How difficult it is?
Yeah, so with Shopify, it's just a 2-button install. We have a bunch of templates to get up and going. And where we're at in the market today is a lot of brands are not collecting any customer feedback, right? So just using one of our templates is typically, more often than not, one of the best places to start. And then depending on the scale of the business, we'll evaluate, hey, should we try to make the survey more nuanced and 2 to 4 weeks, or if it's a slower brand that doesn't have as many sales and like we want to get to like a more complete story or statistical significance, if you will, then maybe we wait 6 to 8 weeks to change the survey. So overall, a super short implementation period, and our templates are there to kind of walk with you. And then while we start running, that's where we'll get more customized. That's where our support team, that's where myself, so on and so forth, can help strategize as to what we've seen from other brands, and like try to borrow those learnings in a, of course, anonymized and respectful way to help you with your survey as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what makes a survey effective? How can you say that this was worth the investment of your time and maybe getting the software and then spending time analyzing it? What makes it effective for a brand?
I think there's a few things that make it effective. I think the go-to-market strategy on a survey and is first off, and then second, if anyone is advertising on TikTok right now, we are TikTok partners. And so what that means for anyone that's using KnoCommerce or thinking about a post-purchase survey, is we can get you up to $5,000 of TikTok ad credit for using us. And so that kind of helps tip the scale as to immediate ROI of our platform. But I mean, the nice thing and some of the Easter eggs within like at least our technology is based on like our templates. We try to set it up so that way we nurture and warm up the customer. So we don't require any of the questions to be required. If there is a question that is single choice, it will automatically move the customer to the next stage or to the next question. And of course, in the whole time, we'll be able to capture revenue data and tie that back into our reporting. But ultimately, yeah, like we want to make sure that we're giving customers easy questions to answer at first, single choice. Then we can look into multiple choice. Then we look into open text. So that's usually things like, hey, was there anything that almost prevented you from buying? What products would you like to see in the future? Or stuff of that nature. But that's usually like the strategy that we recommend and that we have embedded in our templates so that way, like people can make sure that it's pretty fail-proof starting out with a post-purchase survey.
I love that. So you've mentioned revenue in your answer. You've mentioned ideas, or basically your audience deciding what products they would like to see next. What are the typical results when it comes to like surveys? Is that an increased revenue? Is that just understanding your audience better so you can leverage that in your advertising and your retention marketing, like email, SMS? What are the typical results that brands can see from implementing immediate post-purchase surveys or surveys in general?
Yeah, so with a KnoCommerce post-purchase survey, from all the data that we look at, and we have over about 6 million questions getting answered every month now, we see about a 45% response rate on the first question. So 1 out of every 2 customers basically will engage with the survey and answer at least one question. Of that, about 87% of those customers that did start the survey will finish a 6 to 8 question survey. And so most of the time, it's brands under asking their customers for feedback versus over asking. And so, as far as the main benefits and value drivers of our platform, is once again, it depends, right? So, if you're using something like Google Analytics and you're looking at offline platforms or platforms like TikTok, our immediate ROI is, hey, you saw in platform for TikTok that you're getting a 1 ROAS, but you saw in KnoCommerce that you're actually getting a 3 to 4 ROAS, right? So the immediate value driver there is, hey, TikTok is a valuable platform for our respective business. Other use cases is postcards, podcasts, billboards, catalogs. So basically, measure any channel that's super hard to measure. We will help save you the time and money necessary to give you the insights straight from your customers as if those channels are effective for them. And then the other value drivers are, depending on your strategy, is ad creative, right? So by framing your strategy in a respective way to ask quality based questions around asking like value drivers or like what interested you the most in X product today, because we have the ability to segment surveys based off of products, we can really help get ad angles, hooks, ideas, so that way then we help feed the content engine of these respective advertising strategies. So those are the two main benefits. And then the kind of the third benefit is we have the ability to what we call drive an action. So at the end of the survey, we can push them to download a mobile app, refer a friend, opt into email marketing if they didn't select that when going throughout the checkout process. So there's so many ways in which we can push that customer post purchase into the funnel we want them to go into next. To like make sure that like we can keep that high intent customer engaged throughout the whole brand experience.
One question that came to my mind immediately when you say that, is it possible to decide to basically trigger the right landing page or whatever? Let's say that on the success page you send people to join and opt into your newsletter, right? You said, right? What if they would answer differently? Is it possible to basically have multiple like success pages once they complete the survey
Yeah,
based on the
yeah,
responses?
yeah. And the great thing about that, and that's a great question, is we've actually seen higher engagement rates when you give the customer the option, right? So the best way that we've seen it done, and we've learned from brands on doing this, is the last question being, hey, last question, do you want to engage with us in any of the following ways? And it's like download our mobile app, join our rewards program, save 10% on a subscription order, or like follow us on social. And based on like 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those selections, we'll show them the appropriate action. So all of that is possible within the platform.
Got it. Love that. That's pretty powerful because you can really start personalizing the experience, and this is something that I don't see many brands leverage at all. One thing about the design of the service, one question that I had for you is sometimes when I see a survey and they don't allow me to free up my thoughts and basically put everything in words that the way I want to put into words, not whatever is already pre-written for me. Is it possible to have like a text field where people can actually share their opinion and add something to the survey?
Yeah, so we have two different text field questions. So, I mean, we have a short text field if we're just trying to elicit a shorter response, or we have a more paragraph box if we're trying to elicit a more thorough response. Um, and so I think I may have said that wrong. So we have a short text box for shorter responses and then a paragraph
Sure.
text box for longer responses. And so, yeah, we have those two. And then we have about 10 other question types. So everything from MPS to date based, so on and so forth, which can help out with like the email side of it all as well.
Sweet. And the surveys integrate with email service providers such as Klaviyo, right? So you can technically build a segment with people that answer X to the same question, and then you can have a personalized messaging for that particular group of people, correct?
Yep. Yep. And so, I mean, the most common use cases there is like how often questions, right? Especially if you're selling a product that is reliable on subscriptions or returning customers for the business to be profitable. Just how often do you shop for clothes? How often do you shop for cookware? Hey, how often do you take supplements today? These kind of
Mm,
questions can help with the retention piece and like it help you better understand from an email perspective. Hey, how long should I wait till touching this customer again? Right? Like how long should I wait till sending them an email or a text? And so these are all ways that we can like help take that high intent customer and like help them influence like how you interact with them going forward.
gotcha. Can you explain the process behind segmented post-purchase survey? So you can, as far as my understanding goes, show a different set of questions for someone that has like higher lifetime value versus lower lifetime value, or maybe it's a first-time buyer. Is that possible? And what are the best use cases there or best practices?
Yeah, yeah. So that is all possible. It's through what we call audiences. And so, amongst all other post purchase survey platforms out in the market today, they either don't have audiences or they have a limited amount of audiences. And so, we have the ability to pull in about 50 different customer data points to influence who sees a survey and to also be a filter layer on the broader data of the survey. So the most common use cases, once again, depends on the industry, but these are the most common that I see. Usually for subscription-based businesses, it's one-time purchases versus subscription-based businesses. Um, and then for most other businesses that are not subscription focused, it's new versus returning versus loyalty. And then within that, if there is like a particular product that they are really excited about or that just launched, there's one particular footwear brand that I've been working with pretty closely that just launched a shoe that they're really excited about. And so now they're asking every customer that bought that shoe a subset of questions so that they can make sure that for any future product development,
I
that it's
love
as
it.
dialed in and it's the best shoe possible for their audience.
Wow. So that's amazing. So you can actually continue improving the product, finding out the reasons why they bought the product, so you can then leverage that in your advertising to get more first-time customers. That's pretty powerful. I haven't thought about that even like product segmenting based on the product. I thought about more like lifetime value, but based on product, that's pretty interesting. And
Yeah,
I
and
can see how brands
also
can leverage that.
yeah, and this is more on the outskirts as well as a common use case, but there have been a handful of usually I found it in like the fitness equipment space or like home office space where people have showrooms, right? Or like mattresses, in which they also want to see if people have bought in a product or have they ever visited a showroom, just to see if the cost of just like the justification of cost to have these showrooms or like try to drive down like shipping like make it just like a better experience for one of their salespeople to try to sell them and like get them the right product in their showroom has also like been like another use case of geographical targeting.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So, last question that I have for you today, it might be very interesting to many because everyone is leveraging AI, ChatGPT, Google's Bard platforms for various ways. Some people just use it completely to take over their copywriting, marketing efforts, etc. I feel like it's a great tool for doing research.
Yep.
What is your opinion on how does a zero party data surveys, for example, data that you collect directly from your customers compares with the data you can acquire by putting some prompts into chat gpt or any other ai? Have you played with it in the last few weeks or seen anyone talking about it? Like, how does it compare? I'll be really curious to see if ai is really at this level where, let's say, 80% accuracy is there for whatever people say in that particular industry versus like AI.
Yeah, so the two main use cases in which we are evaluating AI, and right now it's, hey, let's like manually like do it, and like of course it's all very customer like safety first, and we just are taking the responses, right? And so there's no customer identifiers to it. But one is exporting all like the responses out to the question and trying to pick up main trends from the responses. And so it's either trend or future question analysis, right? So it's, hey, of these customers that shopped at Facebook, what qualities did they like most about X product? Or, hey, with these customers, what were some like identifiers? We typically recommend asking like, who did you purchase this for today, and like how long did it take to convert? So, I mean, the biggest use case and value driver of AI today within KnoCommerce is those trends that are based on like multiple points of criteria, right? So it's somebody that came through Facebook that identified themselves as a male that like bought these products that live in like that are interested in these product qualities. Like, is that a trend amongst all the broader data without having to do a bunch of Excel pivot tables and VLOOKUPs? And then the second thing is like future question iteration. Like, I think when I've talked to a lot of brands, so my main role here at KnoCommerce started out as agency partnerships, but I do everything from working with agencies to talking to brands to helping out tech partners. And so firsthand, I've probably talked to maybe 5, 6, 700 brands since I started in December. And the biggest pain point is like knowing what question to ask next, because eventually you're going to understand your customer journey. That's not going to be as exciting as it was maybe the first 60 days of like learning, okay, maybe this channel is working for me or it's not. And so that's where like plugging into AI and once again saying, okay, I have these trends, what questions could I ask next is like a great way to also evolve like your post-purchase survey with KnoCommerce. So we are looking into things and we are trying to see how do we automate some of these insights for the brands on the platform. It's just we're not there yet, but it is something that's top of mind for us all.
Love it. So I think there's huge power behind finding out directly from your customers what they want, what they're looking for, etc. And I remember being in some webinars just like this one with 9-figure e-commerce brand owners a couple of years ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, let's say. And what they did in early stages of their company growth, e-commerce company growth, they were first looking at Instagram profiles from their customers to get a hold of them and basically ask a bunch of questions. Because sometimes you might even have a celebrity or mini celebrity in your following or your customers that just came organically to your store. So you might want to build a relationship with them, of course. And another thing, what he did was literally personally emailing his customers and calling them up and asking about the product. What did they like? What did they dislike? What was working? What wasn't working? Why did they buy it? Did they see any results? Did they not see any results? Were they consistent with using the product, etc.? And now, you can use the platform such as KnoCommerce to simplify the process and perhaps scale faster that way, because you don't just make assumptions. You can actually listen to your customers. And as we know, if you have a great customer service, continue to improve your products, you can definitely have customers for life. And word of mouth is still big. I feel like not too many people talk about it in this space because word of mouth is super powerful. I can literally bring in at least 10 customers to any e-commerce stores just from word of mouth if I really love the product. Just by having it somewhere in your house and you have guests, family members, it can literally give you tens of customers every single time you have a product you actually love and you want to talk about or change somehow your life. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and I think you raised a few good points there. I mean, one, I don't think the days of talking to your customers directly will ever be over or should ever be over. And that's where, like, even with our actions piece, like, I have a brand outside of KnoCommerce, and I've thought about making my action on my post-purchase survey. Like, do you have any interest in meeting with the founder for $10 off on your order, right? And so that way you can automate that, right? But like most of the time, customers, like the way that I look at it is like the cart before the horse. And so most of the time, like the questions that you are asking to your to your customers when you don't know what you don't know are the same questions you can ask with the post-purchase survey. And then once we have that, it's how do we follow up with them and try to create that secondary conversation so that we have that starting point. And then we can capture things like tonality, personality. How do they identify themselves, like through how they present themselves on a brief phone call or throughout like a quick email chat or on a
Mm.
Zoom call, right? So I think the overarching premise here is like surveys started as a way to collect data points. Then they evolved to like understand and try to solve for attribution. But I think where they're trying to go, or where we're trying to go, or what I think is possible, is like automating consumer behavior, right? So taking a group of people over time and creating trends, so that that way we can actually make marketing strategies that work and are influenced by the voice of the customer. And so I think it's like a super exciting thing that everyone can benefit from. And we try to just create the tech that makes it as easy as possible and as simple as possible for customers to give insights and give you the insights as marketers.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's so many use cases. Like even now that I think about, I mentioned Instagram or TikTok, right? Or the benefit of partnering with you because you get the TikTok credit. Like you can literally ask your customers, or maybe someone that bought multiple times, if they would like to basically share their content or record some videos on TikTok or Instagram and share them with you for a free product or whatever, 1 month free subscription or something like that, and incentivize them just for creating like really genuine content. Like this would be probably the best testimonial you can get for your products. If you have a customer who loved your product, is using it for weeks or months or years, there's so many ways you can benefit from just asking. Like you just miss
Yeah.
the opportunity for asking. The worst case that can happen is they're going to skip the survey, that's it. But as you said earlier, there's a lot of people that actually fill out the survey and answer the questions.
Yeah, and even if they drop off halfway through, I mean, our technology and our platform will be able to capture that customer. And so most surveys out there,
There you go.
if you the reason why people under ask historically is because if you ask a survey in most other platforms out there, you don't it's an all or nothing approach from the data collection standpoint. But with us, oh, they take two questions and they want to get on with their day, okay. They want to fill out 6 to 8 questions, great. It's like, and it's so much better than like an emailed out survey because like you're not interrupting their day, like they're already in the process of being on your store. And so just so many different use cases, and I think it's easy to go down the weeds and get excited, but yeah, I mean the possibilities are truly like endless. And I mean, even with your UGC, I mean that's why we integrate into Bounty, for that whole purpose, is to get people paid 5-10 bucks for making a video that would cost most people 50 to 100. And so it's just like a great way to automate and take that high intent customer and like in a very low, no frills way, see like what they're willing to do for the brand after they purchase or engage with you.
Yeah, makes sense. So if a brand owner or their team member would like to ask you some questions about no commerce or post purchase service or service in general, where can they find you and how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, you can email me, Steven at knocommerce.com. That's the easiest way for me not to miss your email. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm trying to post more and more on different use cases on there, just at Steven Bell. Um, and yeah, don't. I'm one of those people that probably don't contact me on Twitter just because I don't. I'm on Twitter a lot, but I'm probably more helpful in the other mediums.
All right, so LinkedIn or email would be the best way to reach you.
Yeah, and Landon runs our chat support on our website. He's amazing, and like our whole team's aligned with this conversation. So yeah, I mean, if anyone has questions, if you're even thinking about it, I mean, we've worked with brands with revenue up in the billions, all the way down to brands that are doing a few $1,000s a month, and so we've seen every use case at this point, and we're constantly learning and iterating and we got some exciting new product features coming out in the next few weeks, so a lot of good things ahead.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And I'm sorry to everyone who I mess up the whole YouTube live in the beginning.
Uh,
So next time I know how to navigate through it. And it was fun. I actually really liked the live feature. So I'll love to have you on in the future as well. Whenever you launch new features for KnoCommerce, happy to do this one more time and better next time from a technical
yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah, or even I know LinkedIn Live is pretty popular, and if it sends out a notification to everyone, that makes life even easier. But yeah, glad that we got this set up. Glad that we have movements in our own like relationship too. So a lot of good things ahead.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, you too. Talk soon.
Take care.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.